your host for this session, and thank you for tuning in. That said, if you guys want to contribute to our topics, have any questions, or just want to tell us what an amazing job we're doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. So, for this edition of the Reality Bang, we have a very special topic to discuss. Every child walks a path. And of course, we have Mr. Ipe here with us. It's indeed a pleasure to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Yohann.
Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure too.
Thank you so much. So, for now, let's jump right into it. So, my very first question is going to be now, can a lack of emotional bonding between parents and children lead to delinquent acts?
Well, when you say delinquent act, you mean acts that will attract legal consequence, right?
Yeah, legal
Or
consequences as well as, lead to further,
okay,
because I mean, it takes a small action to lead to a bigger action, right?
okay. Now, let me tell you, in every home, when children grow up, especially when they reach teenage,
Hmm.
there will be friction between parents and children. Now,
Yeah.
if it is not there, I would say it is quite abnormal, because parents are from a previous generation. The way they think, the way they react is different. And also, teenage is a difficult time when their body is changing, but their emotional growth is somewhere in between. So, teenagers struggle with such issues. So, they go through a lot of challenges that their emotions are not at least they feel that their emotions are not being understood by their parents, so these
Hmm.
challenges will be there, and then they will react or act in a very strange way. So if there is a misunderstanding between parents and teenage children, or if there is an argument,
Hmm.
uh, and some screaming and shouting, don't jump into the conclusion that it's such a bad thing, that this generation is gone, there is no hope about. Don't do that, because if you pause, I'm talking to the parents, if you pause for a minute to think that, how did you manage when you were a teenager? You also have done these things, may not be exactly the way your children are doing. Now your children are having a phone and earphones in their ear, and you scream and they won't listen to you. You didn't do that because you didn't have a cell phone when you were young. So don't go to that extreme. But what you have asked is regarding the bonding between the parents and the children.
Hmm.
Now, let me tell you, the bonding will not happen when children are in their teens. When they become teenagers, that is when they realize that parents are old fashioned. They
Yeah.
don't understand what we are talking. The music that we are listening, they don't appreciate. My dad even don't know what is a meme. Okay. He's not there uh, in the social media. Uh, he has no idea who is the popular YouTuber or a vlogger. So that is the kind of understanding between parents and teenagers now.
Hmm.
However, when these teenagers are exposed to all these things, I'm also sure that there are pitfalls. It can lead them to many bad things.
Yeah.
But whenever a person decides to do something bad or something that is not ethical, he also has a conscience. Maybe he's young, maybe he's teenager, maybe he reacts in a very peculiar way. He also has a conscience. And that conscience is formed by his circumstances and the culture in which he was brought up,
Hmm.
which means his conscience is being formed by the influence of his parents, or the lack of influence of his parents.
Hmm.
So I'm sure you've heard this saying, no, I follow my conscience. Yeah, according to my conscience, what I have done is right.
Yeah.
It appears as if it's a very good statement, But the problem with conscience is initially a neutral thing. It is not biased. Uh, But when you live in a circumstance, you are a part of a culture that forms your conscience.
Hmm.
I'll tell you one example. There are people in this world who think that those who are from a different tribe, we can kill them or we can loot them, we can rob them. There is no problem. Without any problem with their conscience, they can do that.
Hmm.
There are people like that. But at the same time, we know that most of us can't accept that act. We say that that's not right because
Yeah.
our conscience is different.
Hmm.
So they grew up in a situation, or their conscience is formed by a culture that taught them this is okay.
Hmm.
So, what parents knowingly or unknowingly would do is that they form the conscience of their children. Their morality is being transferred to their children. So, this cannot be taught. This has been caught,
Yeah.
right? My moral values, what are the values that I give importance? A lecture to my son or a daughter will not teach him anything. On the other
Hmm.
hand, my behavior, my attitude, how I treat others, how I treat that child, how I speak to him, do I keep my manners intact when I speak to my child? These
Hmm.
are all important things, He will realize that my father treats me with respect, with dignity. That encourages him to treat others also with respect and dignity. So that those lessons are learned very early in their life. And if parents are not trying to, uh, it will not be formed. So yes, you are right. Will help them to formulate their conscience.
So of course you spoke about the entire conscience thing, and I don't know, like in some cases, like a lot of students, like a lot of children these days, they call it like shaping of childhood trauma. So that officially leads us to the next question. Now, how does or how do childhood trauma and adverse home experiences, shape a child's likelihood of, engaging in delinquent acts? Like as you said earlier, like it could be anything, like from small acts which lead to later bigger legal acts.
Yeah, I remember watching some of the Discovery Channel crime file things like that. Um, and what I have noticed is, there are some psychopaths, extremely dangerous criminals,
Yeah.
and I have noticed a pattern that their childhood was not peaceful.
Hmm.
They are from Most of them are from a broken family.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there should be some psychological problem. But their upbringing and the trauma that they faced in childhood has influenced them and made them uh, the way they are when they grew up. However, I must also say that not all those who have gone through this kind of trauma has become criminals.
Yeah.
Well, there is a possibility. For example, if the father is an alcoholic, the research says that there is a possibility that 80% of their alcoholics children can become alcoholic.
Hmm.
But then there is a 20% who did not become.
Yeah.
So again, it is not a hard and fast rule. So as a parent, it is our responsibility to provide a peaceful home and a healthy relationship to a child.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you think that you have a traumatic experience when you are a child, your parents, or father or mother did not treat you well, you have a lot of bitterness towards them, don't think that that's an excuse for you to go into real bad things.
Hmm.
Just because my parents did this, so I am going to do this. No, they are not responsible for your life when you are an adult. Whatever you do, you have to reap the consequence. So my point is that don't take it as an excuse.
Hmm.
How, probably it's a very sad thing that you have gone through. You that bitter experience is haunting you, and it keeps coming to your mind. I would say that it is a negative thought, and you
Hmm.
should make a conscious effort not to think about it. See, I can't say that you can't think about it. These are the things that happened in our lives, and it comes to our mind. But the issue is how long you're going to dwell on those thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay, so if keep on dwelling on those thoughts, you will have this feeling of self pity. See, my childhood was very sad. I
Hmm.
struggled a lot. I suffered a lot. And that is not a positive feeling.
Yeah.
That will not give you mental health. That will make your emotions harm you. So
Hmm.
look at the positive side and move forward. Don't use these things as an excuse. You know, some of you may know Dr. Paul Brand, who was a missionary doctor in India, who treated the leprosy patients. And,
Oh
those
yeah.
days, you remember, yeah, those days, uh, the artificial limbs were very limited. Like this doctor, though he was a medical doctor, he was also a carpenter. With wood, he used to make artificial limbs for patients.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then many of them were rehabilitated. They came back to me, the patients, leprosy patients. And then somebody once asked him, see, there are patients who were healed and they were able to lead a normal life. And what happened to them? How did they do in their life? What Paul Brand said? It all depends, or it all depend on which direction they looked.
Hmm.
Some of them looked to the positive side and they went on with their life. But many others, they kept on thinking about the rejection that they faced from society and parents, the struggles that they had. They were dwelling on that, and they did not make it good in their life. So even if you had a miserable childhood, that's not an excuse for you to go into such actions.
Of course, the whole miserable childhood part, like I think it involves a lot of forgiveness in order to, move past it and to attain like what you truly were meant to attain. So, my third question is now, what role does forgiveness and second chances play in helping a delinquent child reform?
Okay, that's a very interesting question about forgiveness. Now, forgiveness, that word is actually associated with another very unpopular word, which is sin.
Yeah.
Okay, forgiveness is needed when there is sin. Uh, a person behaved in a certain way,
Hmm.
and that created a hurt in your life.
Yeah.
Okay, it's possible. There are many incidents in our lives. But if you really go and ask that person, why did you behave like that? Sometimes, not always, but sometimes we will be surprised that he had no bad intentions whatsoever. He just did or said something unknowingly that it will hurt you or
Yeah.
hurt another person. So the hurt person, what normally happens is he won't say anything.
Hmm.
He keeps that in his mind. He will never address this issue, or he won't even and confront that person, saying that what you did or what you said has caused pain in my life. He won't do that. Okay. But if you do that, you are giving the person who hurt you, you're giving him a chance to explain his position.
Yeah.
So once he explains that, I believe more than 50% of the problem will be solved.
Yeah.
But this problem is not solved because we fail to confront the sin or the wrong that has been
Hmm.
done. So only when you confront, you are either you will understand, yes, it was something wrong, or it was a misunderstanding from our part. Okay. The second thing is that person deliberately did it. So when you tell him that it caused pain, it hurt me, there is a possibility that he will say, "I'm sorry. I did it to make fun of you." This is something that normally happens with parents. They make fun of their children. They will have a laugh at the expense of their children, and children may not take it the way the parents crack the joke. It hurts them. I'm sure we all can identify with that.
Yeah.
But when that child comes and tells you, what you said, it was actually
Mm.
hurtful. You know, if a sensible parent, he will say that I'm sorry. But again, some people say that this is not going to happen. It's very difficult to happen. Actually, that's true. You can't expect that kind of maturity from a child.
Yeah.
Okay? But when the child grows up with this kind of bitterness in his
Mm.
heart, I'm sure that, even after you grow up, you can actually confront your dad or your mother on that day. Why did you do that? Most probably your parents, father or mother, would have forgotten
Mm.
about it. But when you tell them that, yes, this act caused pain in my heart, they'll tell you, son, I don't remember, but I'm sorry. They may say that. The other option is that they may reject that.
Mm.
Come on, don't be silly. Are you still holding on to all that even now? No, that's a very wrong attitude, because you hurt a child and the wound would have healed, but the scar is still there.
Yeah.
Okay, he grew up with that scar and he's trying to deal with it. So you need to be a little gracious. Don't be rude on your children. It is good to reconcile. But then there are cases where their parents are not there.
Mm.
They died and gone.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? There is no way that you can confront your father or a mother who's not alive.
Mm.
So what can we do? At that point, you have to take a conscious decision to let it go. Okay? What are you going to hold to achieve by holding on to that bitterness? You're not going to achieve anything. Rather than, on the other hand, you will be emotionally tarnished because of that. Well, when you talk about being offended or hurt, or also talking about forgiveness, one must also remember, knowingly or unknowingly, we also have caused hurt to
Yeah.
others. Right? Now, because we have said something or done something, we try to justify. It's such a silly thing. Why? Who will get offended for that?
Mm.
But maybe for that person, at that moment in time, it was such a hurtful thing.
Yeah.
You also would have done that, right? We are, that's a blind spot
Mm.
for us. When we offend or hurt others, that's a very small thing. But the hurt that I had, oh, that's the greatest one, right?
Yeah.
So be kind to yourself, at the same time, be kind to others
Yeah.
also. Okay. Uh, I once also say this regarding forgiveness. There is a verse in the Bible, in Psalm. I think it is in Psalm 130. It says, "There is forgiveness with God."
Mm.
Because there is forgiveness with God, we should fear Him.
Yeah.
First time when I read that verse, I thought, okay, what a strange verse this is. If a person is willing to forgive, why should we fear him?
Mm.
That's where we should fear. That's where we should respect him.
Yeah.
You know, God will forgive, or rather, I would say, God can forgive.
Mm.
But the problem is, God is also a righteous God.
Yeah.
According to his standard, every sin, every offense needs a
mm,
punishment. So that needs to be punished. That's God's
yeah,
standard. How will God forgive? God has made a way for that. God sent his son, Jesus Christ, into this world. He died for all our sins. But when we accept the fact that Jesus died for my sin, God is willing to forgive your sins.
yeah,
You'll be given a clean state, a
state,
clean slate. Everything has been wiped off. Every offense that you have done is wiped off. It's a great thing. See, no court in this world can do it. They will acquit you by saying that there is no
mm,
evidence. So we are not giving you punishment. That's the way most of the cases have been
mm,
rejected, or that's the way people escape from
yeah,
punishment. But they will never escape from their
mm,
conscience. The conscience will still accuse them, saying that you've done it.
yeah,
But when God forgives, He not only forgives us from the consequence of what we have done, He also clears us from the guilty conscience. See, that's the offer that Jesus Christ gives. He cleanses you and gives you a clear conscience. Now, these things are really amazing. Like when you talk about it, it's too good to be true. It's that kind of forgiveness that God is
yeah,
offering. But there is a condition with this forgiveness. And that condition is that Jesus said when he taught his disciples how to pray, he said, "Forgive our trespasses as we forgive others' trespasses."
yeah,
So, if you are forgiven by God, and if you know that you are forgiven by God, let me tell you, that's the only way that you can truly forgive another person.
yeah,
Otherwise, you will be comparing, wow, who did the greater sin.
yeah,
But the moment we realize all the bad things that I have done, God has forgiven me, then we have no excuse not to forgive.
exactly. So, of course, like nowadays we see, a lot of kids who have, done a lot of horrible things, gone to jail, then come out. And of course, a lot of parents are struggling with this. So, this leads me to my final question. Now, what support systems should exist for families, struggling with a delinquent child?
Number one, don't judge
Mm,
them. See, I've seen people indirectly saying that, we are a praying family, we have done this, we have done that, and God has blessed me. My child is doing well, and my son is doing, my daughter is like that, and all that. We say that in front of parents who have struggled with their
yeah,
children. Now, it is not in our hand. See, I believe in the responsibility of the
yeah,
parents. They should do their responsibility when children are young. But that doesn't guarantee that your child will be perfect and he will not run into any trouble and all that.
yeah,
If your child is not into any of such criminal activities, that is purely God's mercy for
yeah,
you. There are people who got into trouble just because of there's some
mm,
circumstances. And there are people who were trapped into certain
yeah,
things. There are many traps for drugs and all sort of things. And because of that, they end up in jail. So what do you say about that?
mm,
So don't judge them.
yeah,
The other thing is, when parents go through such struggles, think that if this would have happened to your son,
mm,
to your daughter, how will you treat her?
yeah,
Okay, let me also take another extreme case, that your son or your daughter, I'm talking from parents'
mm,
perspective, that he has been caught, or he is in police custody or in jail, or there is a court
mm,
case. As parents, what are you going to do? There are some people who are so proud about their status in the society, status in the church or in the religious circle. No, for me, my son, if he has done that, what will happen to me and my
Mm.
image? You know what? There are many people who can do what you're doing in your society, in your company, or in your religious organization or church or
Yeah.
wherever. But for your child, you are the only father or you are the only mother. If he is going through trouble, it is your responsibility to stand with him. Now, I'm not saying that you justify what he has done, but it is the responsibility of the parents to stand with them. At the same time, I must also tell you that there are people who are into substance abuse and they steal things and they run into
Yeah.
debt. So when such things happen, you stand with them. But that doesn't mean that you help them uh, to continue
Mm.
their lifestyle by providing financial support or providing for their needs so that they can continue an irresponsible life. Don't do that. I'm not saying that. But any effort from his side to lead a normal life, that should be encouraged and supported by the
Yeah.
parents. Never say that you are like this, I'm still doubtful. No, no, no. Don't do that. Help him to come out. Those who are uh, gone into any kind of addictions, when their family supports them, there is a high chance that they will come
Mm.
out. But when the family is not supporting them, it's all the more reason for them to continue in that lifestyle. So, yes, the family can play a great role, even bringing people back from such sad situations in their lives.
Exactly. And of course, with that said, that brings us to the end of today's show. A huge thank you to Mr. Hype for joining today's show and providing us with your valuable input.
Thank you,
Thank you
Johan.
so much. And remember, guys, we air on Mondays at 4:30 p.m. That's it. If you guys want to contribute to our topics or just want to tell us what an amazing job you're doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. And a huge thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this edition of the Reality Bang, your weekly dose of youth power, brought to you by FEBA Online. This is RJ Yohann. Hope you have an amazing week, and I'll see you next Monday. God bless you.